Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
I want to tell you about something Amie is doing. So, Amie, I'm going to toot your horn here for a minute. And if you've listened to us for a while, you know I have no problem shamelessly using this space to tell people about really cool resources out there. And there are so many cool resources. And so I don't care whether it's Choose Recovery Services or another company. If it's going to help you heal, tell me about it and let me share it with other people. And so, Amie, I am so freaking excited for what you're doing. For those who don't know, a lot of us at Choose Recovery Services have been trained in brain spotting. Amie has not only gone through multiple trainings, but she's done all of the extra supervision to be fully certified in brain spotting. And Amie even went on an amazing retreat that I vicariously lived through you with in Mexico.
He
Um,
emotionally carried you with me on that one.
oh my gosh.
That's-
I sat in my office in the middle of winter in Utah and listened to Amie and saw
It was
beautiful.
transformative. I had to do a whole episode. I'm going to have my supervisor come and do an episode with me. I've tried really hard to record on my other podcasts my experience with that brain spotting intensive, and I can't. And so I'm actually my trainer supervisor to come and help me talk about that because it was life changing, but it also changed the way that I
Practice.
as a practitioner.
Yeah. And I think that actually leads in perfectly to you did an intensive on brain spotting that was life changing. And now you're offering that to your clients. And
Yeah.
so tell us about this where you are hosting an intensive where it's a very small number of women who can come get intensive support, do brain spotting, and really dive deep into the work.
Yeah. So April 10th, 11th, and 12th, it's a 3-day brain spotting intensive. I am only accepting 6 registrants. There is a reason for that. I want to keep it small. Brain spotting is a somatic healing modality. We're getting into the body. I'm including a lot of other somatic modalities to help women. This is specifically for women get back in their bodies and heal the body because the body keeps the score. I have seen incredible healing from my clients that do brain spotting with me, but on an intensive level where you can dive deeper and have the space to go deeper, where it can be hard with a limited amount of time and even virtually. So this really takes the healing up several levels, but I'm really excited about it. So yeah, the registration will be open. I'm hoping by the time this airs, I can have at least get a registration link. So if you go to the show notes, you can click on that link, hold your spot. Very excited to offer this intensive because I know it works.
So if you want to come do that deeper body work, hang out with Amie for half of the week, you'll get to see me pop in and pop out, not in your intensive, just in the office here, but it'll be really to see you and that you'll get that time with Amie. So Choose Recovery Services /intensives. You'll find it on there, but we'll also link that in the show notes. And then we'll just jump in now to our regular episode.
Alana and I are tackling a listener question. And Alana, I think I'm just going to put a trigger alert out actually. As I was looking at the question about to read it, I thought, you know what? Let me just put a trigger warning. And I say that only because I think the trigger warning isn't so much in the question, Alana, but I think what you and I and how we're going to respond is with some truth that might be hard for some people in different spaces and places to listen to. And so, of course, you've heard us say this a million times. We always want you to reserve the right to click off and turn us off if you are not ready. And we know that sometimes we might not be ready to hear things. We need to hear hard things. And I know I can speak for you, Alana. I think you and I are both very dedicated and committed to not only our clients as professionals, but to our community on this podcast to deliver what we feel like is helpful and truthful, even though it's really, really hard. And so I just want to put that out there before we get into this. I know that for me, as I look at this question and the things that come up for me, not only in my own experience that I can pull from, But in a lot of my clients that I hold space for in this place, I know it's hard. I know it's hard when I speak that truth. So, trigger warning, just for all of you listening, the question that we're answering today is, I am choosing to stay in my relationship and my partner still has a lot of work to do. He thinks he is fine and doesn't need to do more. I find myself having to constantly attend groups, attend therapy, do meditation just to keep my head above water. How can I learn to feel good? I have a lot of feelings about that question, that last part of that question. How can I feel good? And how can I feel good when it's clear in that question there is a lot of unhealthy that might be happening? As
Can you
always, we can't assume the situation, but I'm going
well,
to.
yeah, can you dissect what you hear in that question? Because I
Yeah.
think that right there, I think so many people will hear that question and be like, "Oh, yeah, I relate to that question." But as a
Yeah.
professional, when you hear that, will you go line through line and just say, like, I don't know, but here's some of what my intuition is saying that I'm hearing in this question.
Yeah. So for me, right away, I'm hearing I'm choosing to stay. And so as a professional, I want to be able to honor my client's choice in that. And right after that, this person acknowledges that their partner has a lot of work to do. I also honor my client's perception and even need that I'm hearing in that my partner has a lot of work to do according to this person who's writing this. It doesn't matter what the partner says in terms of that, right? I don't even need to hear the other partner side of the story right away. I'm hearing this person say that they need their partner to do more work, but their partner thinks that they don't need to do more work. So we have conflict. We have one person saying, I'm needing more. And the other partner going, no, I'm not going to do any more. So that stands out to me big time in terms of what this person is stating they need. And clearly that's not being met. Then this goes into the part that's for me gut wrenching, right? I find myself having to constantly attend group, attend therapy, do mediation. There's probably, honestly, Alana, there's probably 10 more things that this person's not naming that they're doing. I can almost guarantee there's probably more than just those things that they're naming there that they're doing just to keep my head above water. That right there is the red flag to me. Just to keep head above water.
Which means I have an image in my mind of somebody who's treading water
Yeah.
and trying with their chin up in the air just to keep their head above water, which means they're not relaxed. They're not calm. They're not at peace. They are
No,
struggling to survive.
probably taking in some gulps of water, choking up a couple times. Like, yeah, that imagery just to keep head above water is my professional red flag. So that right there tells me to really get curious about the safety that this particular person is experiencing or lack of safety that this particular person is experiencing. Then here's the gut wrenching part for me is again, how can I feel good in this space where I'm treading water and just barely keeping my head above water? There's so many different metaphors and analogies that come to mind, but it's like, how can I enjoy this pan of brownies when there's a pile of shit in it? Like, whatever, however you want to look at this, there's clearly something not healthy and not good. If we're going to use this person's, language, not good that's happening. And they're trying so hard to find the good and be okay with it when they're not in a space of breathing. They're not in a space of safety. And that's my interpretation.
In that, this idea of trying so hard to find the good, I want to validate that because I just think about when I was in my marriage and I'm looking at trying to find the good, that to me was taught as a young girl as being like the right thing to do. Of you only look for the good in your partner, what you feed is what you'll get. So there was a certain level of that, of like finding the good is noble and it's wonderful and it's Christ-like and it's really good to do. Okay. So there's that piece of it. But then once everything came out and I was trying to choose to still stay in the relationship and there's so much pain, then it's trying to find the good because if I don't, then all the pain's going to overwhelm me. And either I'm going to be overwhelmed with pain or I'm going to have to really sit with what has happened and I might not be able to stay. And so that's where my brain goes to is this I don't want to leave. There's a whole host of reasons and things that play into that for everyone. It's individual and it's multi layered and it's complex. So I
Mhm.
don't want to leave, but
Mhm.
staying is killing me.
Yeah, and you saw that at the very beginning of the question, and in the very end is this dissonance. It's how can I stay when things aren't good and I'm not good and I don't know how to feel good because I'm barely hanging on, right? Barely getting by. So this question, I think you and I both were like, "Ooh, this is a good one." We see this often enough that I think it's worthy to talk about on this podcast today. But one of the things that, and I don't even know how much you want to dive into this, Alana, but one of the things that you and I were talking about before we hit record was the body. And can we just talk about what the body physically needs to do and what the body does in order to stay in a situation that there isn't safety, when they're clearly not getting what they need from that partner, for them to not be in the space of like head above water, right? Where they can start breathing, they can start thriving, they can start creating, feeling that safety, emotional regulation. That's not what you and I are seeing in that question. So, in order to stay in that space, what does the body have to do to survive? Can we just talk about that? I'm thinking central nervous system, like all of that physiological stuff. What comes to
Well,
mind for you first?
at the most basic level, you cannot talk your body out of protecting you. That is an innate experience that your body is hardwired to do. And no matter how much you try to play like mind games with yourself and with your body, it won't work. Your body will protect you, whether it's shutting down systems and going into freeze mode to protect you, or it's amping up the systems and going into an hyperactive, the hypoarousal versus hypoarousal, whichever way it's going.
Mhm. Or fawn, people pleasing. It's
Mhm,
gonna that's another survival mechanism, reduce
mhm, mhm. So all of those things happen automatically. That is not a conscious choice that you sit down and go, oh, you know what? I need to slow down my digestive system and I need to start shutting down systems and send all my energy into this emotional survival. There's no thought process to that. Usually it's okay, I just need to figure out how to make this work. I just need to be fine. If I just had text more, if I was funnier, if I made their life easier when they got home from work, if I, all of these types of thoughts where you're trying to manage the environment or manage the situation does not impact how your body is responding. Your body will respond to perceived threats
Yeah.
and it's going to happen
So,
automatically.
which is why having someone who understands this dynamic to help you slow that down and become more aware of what's happening so that you can start stepping out of this survival fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. If it's so subcortical and automatic, like you're saying, it's going to happen when you have someone slow down the situation, the thought process, right? All of those different key elements. What is your body feeling? What did your body see your body do or not do? Dropping into that awareness helps you move out of this kind of automatic response.
Oh, for sure. Because that awareness allows for clarity, and that clarity allows you to step in what is reality.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the first time I had someone ask this in one of my groups. It was a similar question where she rattled off, I can't even remember, like 10 different things that she was regularly doing in her environment to survive. And then she said something along the same lines, but it was like, okay, why is this not enough? And the reality was no matter how many things you do, it does not change whether the other person is creating safety or not. She was in a relationship with a person who was incredibly emotionally unsafe.
Hmm.
And so to stay in that relationship, she needed to do the checklist of 10 items to keep her head above water.
Right.
She wanted to be able to lounge out on the pool floaty and drink her whatever drink and relax. That's the life she wanted, and that's the relationship she wanted, but that was not her reality. Her
Right.
reality is if this is a relationship with this person you're choosing to stay in, the reality is you're going to have to constantly be treading water in all these different areas to survive. You don't have the safety to lay out on a lounger. That reality to sit with that, it just sucks. I don't have a
It
pretty way of
does
saying that.
suck. It's painful. And so, in order to not feel that pain, the human body and brain do incredible things to avoid that. What you're saying there, I'm thinking of all of the cognitive changes that have to happen, right? The denial, convincing yourself that the situation isn't as bad as it seems. Otherwise, it's too overwhelming to sit with the truth. The rationalization, justifying behaviors that are unhealthy, destructive, or even abusive to make sense of all of the chaos. A learned helplessness, right? Believing there's no way out. There's no other option. I can't. I have to. I'll never. Those types of cognitive changes that we'd have to make again in order to avoid the reality and the emotions that come with that.
This could be a whole episode on betrayal blindness. And I'm like running through my head. Have we done that episode?
Yeah, I think we talked about that before.
Okay. So go look through our past episodes. We probably could hit this one again, though. But denial has almost like a dirty taste to it. But when you look at it through the lens of betrayal blindness, if you're just trying to maintain connection and attachment to your primary attachment, it makes sense why there's all these parts of us. And again, that innate desire to connect and be close to our primary attachment. We have all of these cognitive games that we can play with ourselves to maintain that connection. And
Mhm.
I will never shame a client for that.
Nope.
That deep desire to want that closeness and the deep desire to want to stay in your relationship, even if that safety is not there, I totally get that.
Yeah.
And I think this is really good for you and I to talk about is most professionals out there are not saying, get out of your relationship, you're done. Like
Mhm.
we see it's not safe, so you need to get out. You started this where you said, no, I believe in the autonomy of the client. In essence, I believe that each person should be able to choose for themselves. And that's our job to support you in those choices. But if we're doing our job, we're also going to help you see what's reality.
At what cost, right? I'm always asking that question. So if this is what you're choosing, what cost to your body? And so your mind, your body, like behaviors, what behaviors are you doing now to stay and keep your head above water? How's that impacting you? Are you walking on eggshells? Are you isolating yourself from family, from friends, from hobbies, things that you love? Are you blaming yourself? Like physical health, what's happening physically in your body. All of these different ways that I think, again, my job as a professional is to help honor where they're what they're choosing, but help them see what is that choice creating and costing you.
And I like to look at that with a trend line. Are we trending up where you are? I can step back and look and go, you know what? I can see how I'm getting healthier. I can see how my body is starting to heal and it's starting to align. If I'm trending in that direction and I'm getting healthier, then I can go, okay, yes, maybe my relationship's not where I want, but I can see that I am still progressing and I am moving towards what I want versus, and I think of it almost like a plant because a plant, it doesn't just, well, sometimes I do die overnight, but usually there's this process of it getting the nutrients it needs and the light and slowly coming back to life and thriving. Or is it slowly starting to wither a
Yeah.
little more and a little more? And there is this loss of self.
Yeah. That's why it's important to look at yourself. And so many times we see clients that are that hyper focused on the partner and not themselves. And so you don't see the withering. It makes me wonder, whoever wrote this question, if just that line, just keep my head above water, if they even recognize that they put that there and what imagery that gave us. Are they looking at themselves in this just barely keeping head above water? Can they see, going back to your analogy, which I love because I literally just brought my plant back to life. And I was looking at my plant yesterday morning and how the leaves were pointing straight up to the sky and how it was so different from wilting down. So I love that imagery that you're giving. And does this person who wrote this see that visual that you and I shared of barely breathing, taking in gasps of water? Do they see that in themselves? Are they normalizing that? Are they justifying that? How this is all something that I would, definitely be asking and getting curious about if they were sitting in front of me. But I think for you listeners, just to turn that back towards yourself, like looking at you and how are you functioning? So you said widen your perspective and what's my trajectory? Do you see your leaves, so to speak, starting to point upwards and stand tall and strong? Or are they still looking downward for that drink of water? It's a hard one to see, which again, why I'm just going to keep saying working with someone to help you see that in a very non-judgmental way where it's safe to look at it without having to make any decisions. I was just telling a client today, look, we're not going there. I actually asked at what cost. I asked that question and the brain went immediately to divorce. And I said, hold on a second. Let's just bring that back. Let's not bring the D word into there. Let's slow this down and really look at the cost on a day-to-day basis. We don't need to jump way ahead. And sometimes that's where our brain goes, but we got to slow this down even more.
And right here, I want to slow this topic down.
Yeah.
I think that is so natural that the brain does go to the most extreme of
Our
loss.
biggest, most extreme loss and sometimes biggest fear, what we
For
don't want.
sure.
It's going to go there.
Yeah. And then our brain goes, nope, can't go there. And so it like tries to shut the door and we're staying right here where it's safe
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
comfortable in quotation.
But then we
And
don't look at any of the costs. We don't look at any of those day to day, what is actually happening.
yeah,
How,
so you said, I'm going to give you permission. We're not going to go there. I'm going to give you permission to not go there. And this is for you listeners. We're giving you permission to not go there. But your situation today, what is the day to day impacts? I will tell you, Amie and I, Mark, go back and forth all the time with each other.
Mhm.
And I'm a really private person, which ironically, I have a podcast that's funny, but I am with like the really personal details. I'm really private. It is really interesting, Marcoing Amie and noticing my patterns in the stories or what I share with you. I'll look and go, isn't that interesting? All of my hiccups in the last couple of weeks were around this topic. And it's just happening in different ways in different scenarios. How interesting.
Mhm.
Or when you go to therapy and you say it out loud and you say something of like, yeah, it feels like we're in war and you keep going, the therapist slows you down and goes, hold on, hold on, hold on. War. Think about that. That is such a powerful word. And so we just spit out these words that don't feel like they mean anything, but actually words matter and they hold tremendous power. So having someone else, even a good friend, but especially a coach or a therapist, that you can hear yourself out loud. And
Yeah.
then you can have someone else slow you down and then take you back and to say, hey, can we just look at what you said there? The power in that.
It really, really is. And I love that you said that. Finding someone that understands this, is trained in this, I just cannot speak enough about. And I'm not even saying you have to come to me and Alana, but like someone that gets this so that you feel safe to hear hard, to hear and see reality. It is painful. When your body, I want to go back to the body just for a minute. One of the things that I see often, Alana, is that's going to sound weird because again, I'm going to praise the human body. What our human bodies are able to do to stay in unsafe situations is phenomenal. And again, we need to see what our body is doing to stay in an unsafe situation because ultimately you are going to pay the price, whether it's autoimmune disease, other disease, brain fog, PTSD symptoms, dissociation, like you name it, it will pay the price. There's the cost that I'm talking about. What other things do you see human bodies do in these situations to stay in unsafe environments to survive?
Disassociating. I see that a lot. I see disconnect from the head and the body.
Yeah.
So I don't have to have the pain of all the thoughts. And so if the body gets disconnected from the brain, I see that a lot. I see swelling of the body. I see shutting down. I see exhaustion. emotional exhaustion and physical exhaustion. And it makes me think of when we had Hallie on the podcast. Hallie Roderick, she came and talked about her brain health company. She was saying your brain cannot tell the difference between an emotional trauma and a physical trauma.
Mhm, mm,
So even that, the confusion, the fog, not being able to find the right words,
yeah.
those those impacts, like when I say trauma impacts every single area of your life, that's not,
Exaggerate.
yeah,
We're not exaggerating.
it sounds like a massive overgeneralization, but if we really slowed it down and looked at it, and while it may not alter every area of your life, does it impact? You bet it does. Knowing that, and then knowing staying in continual patterns, if the patterns are still filled with lying and hiding or coercion or control or manipulation, your protectors are not going to relax. Your body is not going to relax. And
It
so,
doesn't matter if it's been 2 weeks since the last time. It's
mm,
still going to hold on to the trauma response. It's still gonna expect that pattern to happen because I hear that a lot. It's been a month or it's been 2 months. It's your body has experienced this for so long. It's gonna take a hell of a lot longer than 2 months. And I
okay,
know that's frustrating to hear, but that's just how it works.
so this is where my brain goes because I would have found myself saying this back when I was going through everything. Okay, but Amy, you say, and Lana, you say that I can heal even if my partner doesn't. So make that make sense.
Yeah, it's what we're talking about here. When your body is in an environment where injury and impact continue to happen,
Continue, continue.
it will not let up. Your protector parts, all of the amazing things that we've just been talking about, will not stop working. Thank you, body. It will not stop working to protect you. And those protections, even though we're saying it's amazing, are still impacting you. When you are living in fight, flight, freeze, fawn far longer than the body was intended, you've used up your reserve. And it is literally pulling energy from your organs to give you some source of energy to keep going because it doesn't know when the next quote hit is going to come. So it's always preparing. That literally has an impact on you. And if you've been doing this for long, long years, decades, it is and will and has had an impact on you. I hope that as you're listening to me say this, if I did the trigger warning, like I know, and I want to just reach out and hold you and put my arms around you because I get it. Sorry, I just had this memory of like sitting in my parents' living room after I left and feeling this, feeling the impact of living in survival mode. I said that. I had been living in survival mode for so long. I don't know what it feels like to not be here. I don't know what the other side even looks like. And so I'm hearing myself say this. I want you to know I get it. And I know how scary it can feel to think about what it might feel like to not be in this space because you're so used to it. But that's the cost that I'm talking about is that I couldn't even allow myself, like my bless my parents' hearts, like they were trying so throwing all these different options of things at me to try and help me feel alive and free and happy. And it was foreign. It almost felt wrong.
Mhm.
So I just massive validation and empathy for this. I also need to speak truth and tell you that staying where there's consistent harm and injury, it doesn't matter how you learn to feel good and all the tools I could give you, Alana and I can give you everything that we've ever learned, all the tools in both of our tool belts we can throw at you. And you can use all of them brilliantly. And if you are still in this environment, you will still be impacted on some level. You just will.
Okay, last question then. Amy, are you telling me to leave?
No, because I could never, and Alana could never tell you that. No one. and I believe God included, could ever tell you to leave. That has to be your choice. When you slow this down, which is why we pieced apart the question, when you slow down and really look at what is happening in your relationship, in your body, in your brain, and at what cost, you get to choose from a more informed position on what your next right, wise step is, whatever that is. And if you have someone that understands that, they will support you in that next right choice.
If you are listening to this and you are the partner who has hurt the other person,
Mm.
and you have lied and you have manipulated and protected yourself, and you're listening to this and it is scaring the crap out of you because you are afraid that your partner will listen to this and choose to leave, the best thing you can do is to get really deep in your therapy and work to figure out how you are still harming. When you really dive into your work and you start creating that safety, the other person can feel it. Their body can feel it, and it's not something you can fake. So, really dive deep into that work. And if that means twice a week therapy, then get in twice a week therapy. If you are committed to doing this work and saving your relationship, and really for you being someone that you trust and you love and you respect, go do that. Go do that work and create that safety and give your partner the time and space they need to heal.
And if you don't want to do the work
Let
because
them go.
you do believe something different now, can you at least own that and be honest with that part?
It's a heavy one.
It really is.
Mental health is truly committing to seeing reality at all cost. See reality, own reality, sit in reality, and make choices based off of reality.
It's that radical acceptance. I just did an episode on that on my other podcast. It's radically accepting. And you might be in a foundational acceptance where we're just dipping our toe in. That's okay. But before we can do something different, that A line, the action line, you have to radically accept things as they really are.
Be gentle with yourself with wherever you are. There's so many clients that I'm seeing your faces and I'm thinking of you. And I know that this is painful and hard. And just like Amie said, I just want to emotionally just scoop you up and hold you in this. So just be so gentle with yourself and gentle in this work and stay in reality. As always, thank you for being with Amie and I this week. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Are you a woman struggling with unwanted sexual behavior? Whether it's reoccurring challenge or a one-time incident, Choose Renewal is here to support you and your journey to recovery and healing. Our group offers a nurturing environment and a community where you can find understanding, guidance, and strength to make healthy changes in your life and your relationships. At Choose Renewal, we focus on emotional intelligence, processing, and integrative attachment to help you understand your emotions and their role in these unwanted behaviors. By sharing experiences and coping strategies, we empower each other to cultivate healthier relationships with others and ourselves. Our group provides a non-judgmental environment where you can explore your challenges and triumphs without fear or stigma of shame. Together, we work towards personal growth, self-discovery, and lasting transformation. So whether you're a woman who is just beginning recovery journey or you've been working on it for some time, Choose Renewal offers support, encouragement, and camaraderie. Join us to navigate healing and embrace the opportunity to renew yourself and reclaim your life. Our group meets weekly on Tuesdays, and you can register by visiting chooserecoveryservices.com or check the show notes for a link.